where I worked in the private sector for about 16 years as a private architect with architecture firms. Jumped over to the public side, worked for Denver Public Schools for 5 years, worked for the city of Denver for 7.5 years. Then I went to higher education, worked for Front Range Community College. Then I went to CSU Pueblo, worked there for 3 years, and worked for Anschutz Medical Campus for CU Boulder, University of Colorado. And then I saw this job and an opportunity to come home and work here and use all my experiences to bring to everyone here that's doing construction projects. And that's who I am. I graduated from Central High School, the bell rings blue, and will always. This is the way we're organized. We have a board, and of the board, there's 9 members. There's 3 city appointees. There's 3 county appointees. We have our county commissioner, Zach Swearinger, and we have Regina Maestri, who's our counselor. We have 1 at-large person, Steve Contreras, and so then they elect a chair, and Diane's the chair for this year or a couple of years, and then Steve. And they select the building official, and I'm appointed position. Just to give you some idea about the building department, we're not the city of Denver, we're not the county of Denver, we're not Pueblo West, we're our own entity. The only way we exist is by the permits we sell. So by the permits we sell, that's how we run our operation. But we're required by ordinance to work with the city and work with the county to get planner approvals and permits, approvals through whatever they do, okay? I basically like to say that we're the vertical construction, the building, the mechanical, electrical, plumbing, structure, and then our, what we call routing partners or city or county agencies are horizontal construction. They're the zoning, the planning, the transportation, the stormwater, that sort of thing. So when you come and do a project, there's 2 submittals you'll have to do. There'll have to be one for the vertical construction, Pueblo Regional, and then one for the horizontal construction. And you would go apply for that depending where your address is, if it's in the county or if it's in the city of Pueblo West. So that's kind of the gist of it all. We're a region. We're not the city, we're not the county. So our entire region is everything's south of El Paso, everything west of Fremont County and Custer County, everything east of Fremont County and Custer County, everything west of Crowley County, Ontario, everything north of Orfano. We have a huge region. We go out to Beulah, Colorado City, all that sort of thing. So that's why we're regional, and it's just easier to show these fire districts. Those are all the different fire districts. Our mission statement is to basically educate the public on health and safety and why codes are good. And what we want to do, and you can get this off our website, but what we want to do is we're called PRBD, Pueblo Regional Building Department. We took those initials and said, hey, we're going to be polite. We're going to research what your code needs are. We're going to build a relationship with you, and then we're going to determine if we helped you or not. And that's our goal, to be customer service that way. This is our new logo too, by the way. Nice. Fancy. I like that. So when you do a project, the way I like to explain it, instead of us being the SWAT enforcement agency, we're your teammate, we're your quality control. Let me give you an example. So you'll submit some plans, and whoever you have them drawn up, you may have gotten them right, may have gotten them wrong, And so when you submit your plans to Pueblo Regional, we're checking to see if they're code compliant and that they did it right. If they need to do some corrections, we'll ask for some revisions. So basically, when you're paying an architect or engineers, consultant fees, we're double checking for you on your benefit that their quality control is great. Once that passes what we call plan review, then we'll create what's called a job site set, and we'll stamp those drawings job site set, because those are the only plans that can be on the job site. Because when our inspectors go out, that's the first thing we look for, what they're inspecting to. But before we sell a permit, we verify your contractor to see if they're licensed, what type of contractor they are, and if they're registered in Pueblo. I can't tell you, we've had a couple of times where we've had 4 clients, I'll call them, come in, customers, And they're in tears because we hired this person and they said they were a contractor. And they said he didn't need a permit and they took all my money. You know, so that's the reason. And we're not trying to be difficult, but we're trying to protect the public. And if you can imagine, you know, us trying to protect the public, that's why all of these things develop. Once we get a good contractor on the site, we work with our contractor partner. And once they get a scope of the project complete, they call in, and between 7:30 and 8:30, if they call in, we'll go out and inspect whatever they want us to inspect that day. If they call in after 8:30, it'll be the following day. And sometimes they'll say, hey, you know, we have no boundaries. So I mean, you can email us, you can text us, you can call us in person, whatever, and we'll work with you. And maybe you want to have a conversation before you do the work, you know, pre-construction meeting. I could do it a couple of different ways, and I'm not sure which way you'd like it. And what I'm very proud of is that our guys are very good with that. Here's our staff, Arnold and I. I'm the chief building official, he's our assistant. We have our front office staff here. We have our building inspectors, which are formally licensed general contractors that have now taken ICC courses and tests to be certified as inspectors and as plan reviewers. We have our mechanical inspectors that are master mechanical contractors formally. Now they've taken their ICC test and are inspectors and plan reviewers. We have our electrical division, which they're masters in electrical, and they're former contractors that have taken their ICC test, that sort of thing. Master plumbers, our plumbing division here, and our whole IT department right here. And so just to give you an example of the workload that we did, last year we did 36,982 inspections between that group. You know, the way we do it is kind of really neat for me. I'm an architect, so it's all kind of new for me. So we get the calls of the inspections in, right? They all have addresses, and the computer throws them up on a map. And then you can see all the inspections you have for a day, and it picks the furthest one away, and we start with that one first, and we come back all the way to the firm, so it's most efficiently. And when we leave from that inspection to the next, the inspector texts and says, hey, I'm on my way, type of thing. And that's just as sophisticated as we are, you know, basically. So we, like I said, have to take tests. I had to take this test, and Arnold took this test too. This is the certified building inspector test, where it was 3 different tests. And you get a year and a half to pass it. And I did it in a year, he did it in a little bit less. I mean, the first test I took on was 9 code books: building code, fire code, mechanical code, plumbing code, energy code, residential code, national electric code, special inspections, and accessibility. That was just the first test. And then I had law and human resources, more law and human resources and organization skills, and inspector skills. You got to pass each one of those tests before they certify you as a building official. So even though I was a licensed architect in the state of Colorado, I had to take that test. And likewise, my staff has to take tests that they're, and here's the mechanical inspector one, here's the residential building inspector, here's commercial building inspector. International Code Council makes us take these tests, so you know we're getting qualified people out there. And I already kind of said what credentials they were, even just to get to take the test, right? So I'm very proud of our staff. We have a great deal. So I was telling you a little bit before how you process your application to get a building permit. All starts with plan review first. What is your plan? What are you trying to do? Where's your address? So your engineers or architects will create all those plans and submit it again to Pueblo Regional for the vertical construction. But then we have our county, city, Pueblo West, and utility people. And what happens is the computer says, okay, it's a commercial development, boom, 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 and it will be these routing partners that need to also have something to say. They have the authority. For example, Public Works has the authority to say, These are the sidewalks you need or the parking you need. Planning has to say, okay, these are the setbacks you need. That's their authority, that's not my authority. But it's all cooking in parallel, it's not sequential, you know, so this could all happen simultaneously. And I'm happy to say, and I'll look at Arnold over here, at Pueblo Regional, we're averaging about 10 review days to 30 review days, which I've been a licensed architect and I've done building departments all across the country. That's pretty good. You know, I've been to California and Arizona and Minnesota, you know, and I'm here to tell you, Pueblo's pretty easy to get through. And by the way, what we usually do is you might just have it in sketch form where you want to do an addition. Come on down, let's see your plan, let's see where you're located, let's see what building type you are. And then I'll invite my staff in and we'll say, this is what we think you need. You know, so before you even draw it, you know, bring your designer with you and we'll say, and then, you know, that actually does us a favor too, because we become familiar with the project. And we become familiar with you, we're networking in a way, you know? So these are all the possible occupancies you could have when you do a building. So don't do this at home, come to us. That's what we're studying for. We'll determine how to get you there. And I'm going to tell you what I used to tell my clients in private practice. You know, there's a lot of codes. I'm going to try to get you off with parole versus life in prison. Okay. So when we do an office layout, we're going to call it a coffee bar. We're not going to call it a kitchen. Okay. And that makes code very happy. And we can do a lot of other things like that where like, hey, you shouldn't do an addition. You should do an addition versus a separate building because you got fire ratings. But if you do an addition, you can avoid all that. So we'll help you think through the options because it's not just one solution. You know, there's multiple solutions and you got these trained guys to help you do that for free. I mean, you're not paying for them until you buy a permit. You know, and the permit only covers us going out and inspecting. It's not covering anything else. So we also do some other things. State Fair comes once a year. They ask us to come out because they know we have a great electrical division, and we inspect 1,200 of their booths. 1,200, 1,000 plus. I'd say. And you know, making sure everything's wired right. You know, you see the wires are in water and all of that sort of thing, but we don't want anyone to get hurt. And that's kind of the message I want to send to say, we're all about public safety. That's minimum code. That's all we're about. We're not about maximum code, you know? So Chili Bean Festival, same thing. Frijoles Festival, excuse me, I always called it Chili Bean, I'm sorry. You might not know, but in the middle of the night, someone runs into a building, pipes freeze, the first responders go out there and they call us, the officials. And my inspectors go out and say, can the building still be occupied? Is it safe to be occupied? All right. So, you know, here we have Doug Knight. We went out, the apartment up top was vacant. So they turned off their heat. It got below zero, froze pipes, and the other two units down below got flooded. Okay. Crazy guy drives into the Pueblo Mall. You know, a bus went out of control and hit a house. You know, the vagrants got into this abandoned garage and started a fire. We all go out there and we post and it starts a whole process of whether the building needs to be abandoned or condemned if it still stringes. We also support our first responders and the mayor. I have monthly meetings with the mayor and her staff. And we look at the value stay and the roadway in. You might have seen those on the news where we closed those down because of all the rift and strife and crime that was going on. And I tell you, it was pretty horrid, the things that were going on in there. So that's helped our first responders, our police and our code officials and all of our code enforcers and all of that. So glad to report that the roadway in is back up and running. We put a violation notice and said you need to correct X, Y, and Z. They hired architects and designers. They hired contractors. They did that. They did their inspections. We were able to send them off and get them back working. The roadway is gonna, the value stay is gonna be more difficult. It's a huge complex and they got a lot of, things that they got a challenge with the health department. This is what I was talking about, building burns, gets run in by a bus. Guess what? You just can't go tear it down because think if it was your building, you have constitutional rights. There's due process, so we have to contact you. We have to see if you're going to rebuild, if you're going to abandon it, that sort of thing, And that whole thing takes about a year to do. And once we get that done, then we send it over to Public Works. They do their magic. And then usually it does nothing because there's no money to tear it down. So they got a grant to tear down the Albany building. That was like a $3 million deal to tear it down. There's environmental deals. And then here's Jerry Pacheco with Pueblo Urban Renewal Authority. He's gonna put some money up to tear that one down. That's in back of the clamshell. That's where that house is. You remember that? We are also have 4 boards, a building, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing board. And the purpose of those is sometimes people have different ideas, like they might not agree with me, the building official, or they might have a different way that they want to try it that doesn't comply with code. Or they just don't agree. So there's 3 ways they could do an appeal, and they would do it to the appropriate board. If the intent of the code or the rules legally adopted has been incorrectly interpreted, if the provisions do not apply to them, and if they have an equal or better way to do stuff. Now I talked about the last one here at the boathouse. They did an exit, but out to the exterior, but right next to the exit, they put this huge window there so they could see out. Well, that needed to be a 1-hour rated window, right? So we said, well, let's have a discussion about it. And so the choices were you can buy that 1-hour rated glass, which is very expensive, right? You can remove the window and put a wall there instead, which is aesthetically what they wanted to do. But then as a group, we came up and said, let's put a sprinkler head there and put a deluge there. And that'll be equivalent code, and I don't have to go to the board for that because we've done it in other areas. So that's why you come to us as a community resource, have a conversation and work things out. So the boards are many. You can see, building board, which is mostly the architecture, structural engineer, architect, GCs, and journeyman. Mechanicals are going to be mechanical engineers and contractors, electrical engineers and contractors, plumbing engineers and contractors.
Are they your, are they your staff that
No.
are on those, or are they?
They're volunteers.
They're volunteers.
The volunteers that have been appointed, that's a very good question. And so they have to have some requirements, they have to have these requirements is what they need to have in order to do that. And sometimes I have challenges in Pueblo to find that. And in
That's
fact,
my next question.
in fact, what I had to do with my mechanical engineers, I worked a lot up north with Denver metro area, and I have a lot of network, and I convinced my mechanical engineer that he could be on the board if he could just zoom in, instead of having to travel 2 hours down and do all that traffic. And he volunteered to do that, and I'm very happy that he'll do that. Again, a board shall not have the authority to waive requirements of the code. A lot of times people say, well, I don't care what you say. I'm going to go to the board and try to do an end around. Well, guess what? You have to have some good reasons. So we also passed the codes. When I came here, we were on 215 building code and 218 plumbing and electrical code. And now my argument for our rating as a city, we wanted to be on similar codes to Colorado Springs because we have architects and contractors working there, working here, and if we could all be on the same code, then we're on the same page, and that makes it a better business deal. We're all inspecting the same code, so it makes it easier. And what I did is, like a lot of times people, well, codes, I got so much more money to this thing. So what I did is when the new code came out, I went to our boards and I asked them, I said, please review the new codes and write me a reference letter as how you think it's going to affect your business plan. Is it going to be more expensive? Is it going to be less expensive? I don't care, whatever the truth is. And then I took these letters of reference to the Pueblo City Council, and they gave us a compliment that was their question. How much money is it going to have? And to see these letters of reference from real life business people that are in the profession, plumbing, electrical, whatever, gave them confidence to go ahead and pass it. So it first goes through the city council, and then it goes to the county commissioner, and then we all adopt the same codes. And I just want to say one thing about codes. I kind of learned a good phrase or a different phrase when I was up in our training, our annual training in Loveland. Had a lawyer, and he says, codes are developed when blood has been shed twice. And I'll give you an example. One of the Colorado codes, and I was reading our CBO legal book, there was a family that went to vacation in Aspen, Colorado. And they didn't wake up in the morning, they all sophisticated, go to find out that there was a vent pipe from a hot water heater that leaks CO2. And before that, there was no code for CO2 sensors. So that's an example of, and so when I say we do minimum code, that's what I'm referring to, it's codes that the electrical is grounded, so you don't get shocked. That you have enough reinforcement in your concrete so the building doesn't sink. It's your venting, so you're not polluting the air and the sophisticated people, that sort of thing. So your plumbing with your backflow preventer, so you're not getting poisoned, that sort of thing.
What code are we at then?
2021.
Thanks.
Yeah, and we're at, what's our plumbing and electrical is 2023. 2023. Those plumbing and electrical are managed by the state that we just adopt. And so they're on a different cycle than we are. One of the things you can do if you're so inclined is I always say there's no interest like self-interest, and we have a Pueblo home builder, a Sky Creek, that actually takes the data from our permits and creates graphs for their own business plan. And so I piggybacked off of that, and basically you can see 22, 23, and 24, and they're tracking the permits sold for single family residences. And that's good information, it's better, you're more informed. And what I see is the 23 and the 24 were nearly the same line, and in my head, that's actually good news, because in 23, they didn't have 7% interest rate on houses, so in 23, we built there's 296 single family homes built, Pueblo County and city. In 2024, there's 276, so we're only like 20 shy of that, but that's pretty darn good, And then some of the things that happened is you could do pie charts. So like in 23, mostly commercial interior remodels, it was to the tune of 73 million. And in 24, it was new commercial buildings to 172 million, that sort of thing. And I guess that's it for me. So one of the things I do want to emphasize is when you have a brand new project, give us a call up and say, I have a new project, I want to understand it all, and we'll set up a pre-submittal meeting where we could throw your plans out on the desk and say what's what, So again, we're trying to be a community resource and not a vindictive police state, and someone you could use as a resource. In fact, just today, I got 2 calls. One was from our commissioner that had a hot water heater problem. I walked into our hot water heater chief's office and we had a conversation on that. We had another customer who I barely know that had a thermostat problem. I walked in there and he told me, what, I don't know these things, but I have professionals that do. So with that, I'll leave it open to questions and answers.
And I'm passing out a do-it-yourself energy kit that was donated by Black Hills. About $65 in value.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
So there's a lot of talk about the trends in the trades as as a career, and having challenges in getting younger students, people to go into the trades, and you're all trades, and you have certified employees, and are you doing anything to get people into succession program or mentorship or something? Is that not your role? Probably not, but.
Yes and
thank you very much.
no, when I was living here, well, in Pueblo, I went away to college, and in 1983, the steel mill closed, right, CFNI. And I came back and I couldn't even get a busboy job, a dishwasher job, because all the adults went over knee-jerk and got all those deals, and I had to leave. So I remember that, and so one of the things Arnold and I have done is we partnered with CSU Pueblo. And I said, listen, you have the construction, I used to be the director of construction over there as well. And I said, you have seniors over there or people, let's set up some sort of internship program. So right now we have two interns. One is a civil engineer and one is a robotics engineer. But we're exposing them to everything I just showed you here. And we're actually having them go out and out with our inspectors and do inspections. We hope to get an IT individual too, but to answer your question a little bit more, I mean, it really is more of a public community college and a sort of thing, but we would encourage that altogether. And I may partner with public community college. I haven't done that yet. If they want to come and visit our masters in electrical, plumbing and electrical, and hopefully, maybe there's even an opportunity for us to go do a presentation or a teaching thing like that. So that's the best I can answer that right now.
I know, it's a big question, yeah.
But you know what, colleges are, four-year colleges aren't for everybody.
No.
And it might become more and more attractive, so it might be cyclical, like, okay, I want to be electrical, licensed contractor versus going for a four-year degree and start working right away,
We have,
Yes, Terry.
Hi, I just wanted to say as part of workforce and that talent development piece, we're actually really trying to push apprenticeships or apprenticeship style learning right now. We have a work-based learning team. As part of that, if they're in the youth population, our youth population serves 18 to 24 for these type of trades. We are trying to find places that will let us place these younger adults into work experiences where we will pay their wages, we will get them tools, we will get them clothing and boots to be successful in that with the hopes of it turning into a permanent job. We also have on the job training where maybe you pay 50% of wages and we pay the other 50% and get those. And so Workforce would love to connect with anyone who is willing to do those kind of experiences and internships and really try to, again, put out those skilled workers.
Well, that's great, Terry. And you know what? This is all about networking, right? Knowing who you know. I mean, when I came in, I kind of took a different approach than the former chief building official in that I wanted to be connected, and I'm connected to the mayor's office, connected to the county officials. We're also connected to the Pueblo Association of Home Builders and the newly formed Pueblo Association of General Contractors. And so it might not be the best thing for them to intern at the building department because all we're doing is inspecting, but for them to get hands-on, maybe we do some networking luncheon or something with those two associations and see what kind of internship the general contractors, both residential and commercial, can do for you. Because also in government contracts, I know that a lot of times they have to have percentages of internships in order to get interviewed correctly with that, right? Yes, sir.
So let me just give you 30 seconds of my background.
Okay.
So I've been a licensed commercial contractor in Pueblo for 18 years. I've been a licensed commercial contractor in El Paso County for 29 years. I've been in the trades 37 years. My father was a general contractor. His father was a builder. So I've got a little bit of background.
Sure.
I've really enjoyed working with Pueblo, pulling permits and what have you until recently, until the current job we're on. And it's been absolutely frustrating and challenging. And I don't know if this is the right format, but Tracy being my coordinator in my office, she's got some notes that I think is pertinent for you to hear as the building official.
Absolutely.
And if today and here is the right time and place.
I think it'd probably be better to come down to our office and figure it out.
Okay,
Because remember, there's two teams working on your deal. There's us, the building officials with the vertical construction, and then there's the other folks, you know, in planning and zoning and wastewater and stormwater and Black Hills and fire. That's not me.
yep,
So, but we can help you with all that, and just to give you some hope, maybe, is we've heard this more than once, you know, and so one of the things I'm initiating, and I've gotten buy-in from city and county and Pueblo West and health, is I'm gonna have what I call a routing retreat at CSU Pueblo. We're gonna invite all those people in, and all we're gonna do is talk about how a submittal goes through the process and how we can do better, basically. So I hear you, I'm here to tell you though, a lot of times is like, the comment will be out there and the engineer hasn't responded to it. Or sometimes the engineer isn't qualified to respond to it. You know,
On that note, I beg to differ because,
what specific situations, you know, what, so let's come in and let's see what your situation.
can we set up a time
Oh,
for the two of us
absolutely,
to
you
come
got my,
meet with
you
you?
got my,
Okay.
card there, right? And
But
my
I would
cell,
love to
my
touch
cell
on it.
number's on here,
Yeah.
you know, my email's on there, we have people like you all the time in here. And what we'll do is, if you could get very specific, if you
Oh, yeah.
email me your address and permit number,
Mhm.
it's on our website, it's on our system. And if it's us, then I can talk to my divisions to see what the challenges are. If it's them, I can look up on Pueblo Place.
been there, done that. I mean, I've got the documentation. As the computer part of the company, the permit pulling process is actually very confusing because you start at the PRBD website, where you start your routing, which, yes, it does take you to the Pueblo Means website,
Mhm.
where you start the routing process. And then it takes you to a viewpoint website,
Mhm.
where you're assuming is where you got to enter all your information.
Mhm.
So that is what I did. A month later, our routing was still sitting in the viewpoint. Nobody had done anything.
So let's have an individual conversation, because I have people I can call.
Okay.
Okay, so again, every situation is different. I always like to say, I want to examine the patient. You know, if you're a doctor, you're not just gonna give a general diagnosis. You gotta see what the symptoms are, and what you're doing, you know? So let's see what it is. And because of that, that's why we're gonna have this retreat, to see if we can get better. Now, a couple other things that we're working on is we haven't had our website, our PRBD website updated in years, decades. And we're gonna introduce that on the April 8th, our updated website. You have to have more ADA accessibility to that, but it's gonna probably do better connection. Again, you're working, say it's in the county, because I heard you say Pueblo Means Business. So you're gonna do all the county reviewers. And I say it's Pueblo Means Business because it's Pueblo Means Business in the county and it's Pueblo Place in the city, you know, and it's PRBD always. So we gotta see what the specific situation is.
Well, what my issue was is that when I started the routing, it sent me to actually City of Pueblo viewpoint,
Hmm.
where it had me enter our plans,
Mhm.
you know, everything pertinent to the job. At no point in time did I know, or maybe it was just my fault, that I was supposed to go back to the Pueblo Means to do the plan review on the Pueblo Means. I thought I had already covered that base on the viewpoint.
See, so there's already a question in my mind, because where is the address?
It's
Is it
in Pueblo, it's
No,
3305
It's
North
in the
Elizabeth.
city. It's in the
It's
city.
physical.
Correct.
Okay, it's in the city.
So we should have never gone to Means, even though it directed us to Means,
Yeah,
is what I'm hearing.
You're right, you're right. So you should only be doing it in Pueblo Place.
And it directed us to
But that's
Means.
where it took me,
Yes.
as soon as I
And you
started.
know what, they're trying to do better. We actually, there's a committee called Pueblo Means Business, and it was originally
Yeah.
started by Garrison, Ortiz and Mark Aloff. And their idea was, everyone needs to be in the same building, which is a 1950s kind of deal. Basically, as a licensed architect, I would do plans and I would deal with the building department in San Francisco. And then later I would do it with Phoenix and then Minnesota. I didn't need to physically be in the, in the building, you know? you should be able to do it much easier now. And Pueblo's having a little bit of growing pains, and that's why as I came and bring my wealth of experience here, as someone that's been a customer getting plans through, you know, I am bringing that attitude and like, we need to make this work good, you know, and when it doesn't work good, you know, you can try to make it idiot proof, you know, create a better idiot, you know, that sort of thing, but I mean, there's always, you know, if it didn't go through the first, there should be someone you could call up like us and say, what's going on? We could look it up and see.
And I just want to throw out there, so I was on the phone with Tracy, as a matter of fact, on the same job here, in trying to figure out what's going on with the routing. And was it Carlos, if I'm not mistaken? Was it Carlos that we talked to on the phone? He did the chief review.
The plan review,
The
yeah,
chief.
and he knew nothing about it because,
Told us, yeah, he didn't know that system existed, had no idea that there was paperwork to, he had no idea.
We'll have you come in, we'll have a conversation.
He vowed to us that he would learn that system as quick as possible, and all the while we're waiting.
Again, it's not our system, you know?
I understand that.
But the problem is there's.
But I have people that can help you with all of that. And it's not.
And we're almost through that job now.
Yeah.
I mean, we're at the end, but I don't want to go to my next commercial project and go through the hell we went through on this.
So there are checklist things that I recommend, and I think it'd be beneficial if you come in
Absolutely.
and we see what the issues and challenges you are, because if we don't know, then we can't fix them
Right.
either, right? And that's what we are trying to address.
Okay.
Okay, I do have a couple other questions here for you, Mark. So you had mentioned, for the notification system for the inspectors on visits and stuff. So you had mentioned you have the map. So essentially you have it all mapped out throughout the day.
Yes.
And we don't get a time frame. It's just sometime throughout the day. It's, you know, if not as equal or worse than waiting for the cable back, a 4-hour window. And again, we have other projects, you know, we're not sitting there waiting at the project all day.
Right.
And most of the time, in my experience, those notifications, they arrive when the inspector is on site, not a heads up that they're on their way, giving me 20, 30 minutes to rally myself and get myself to the site to meet.
Arnold's one of our former inspectors. Why don't you address that, Arnold?
Well, before Arnold, would you give us specific details on the northern inspection during the blizzard?
Sure.
I need you to hear this.
Yeah, geez, so we were going back and forth with the health department and Pueblo Regional and just trying to get approval on an existing grease trap and whether it was going to be acceptable for the building. According to the engineer's drawings, it was bigger than what the engineer is calling for. So in our mind, it should be legit, but neither health department or regional wanted to accept it. So we finally got a plumbing inspector to meet me out there. It was the day that it was snowing really bad. And when he showed up, he definitely had an attitude, wasn't even willing to look at the grease trap, flat out told me that has to go back to the health department again. So
Back and forth,
like,
We don't
nobody knows.
person.
Well, and again, if we sit down, then you know who the reviewers are. If I understand right, the grease trap is all the authority is in the health department.
And they passed it off to you.
Mhm.
Okay, so let me research that.
Okay, great,
You
great.
got
That would be
it covered,
great.
all right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we want to work with you.
Yeah.
We want to make things better for everybody that's
You
having
know,
to deal
like,
with.
like I say, we get a one-time payment of the permit you buy.
Right.
So for us to go out there over and over and over and over again, we're not making any money.
Mhm.
You know, we're not making any money and just, in fact, that's kind of a rule that building departments aren't, profitable. All they can do is collect the fees that make their operation work. Okay,
And Mark-
so let me have Arnold talk about inspections first.
Okay.
Okay, so so we're gonna talk about the notification system.
Mhm.
Okay, so in the morning we get a list. It does, on computer, marks that out. And it maps it out. Okay, we individually pick those. We've experienced, it's really difficult to give you almost an exact time. Our initial thought was to be like Amazon, when we say, hey, you know what, we're here, you're next, and then this one next. It's real live, at that point. What we've encountered is, it depends on, like Mark says, the patient, okay? The job that we're on may only take 5 minutes to do an inspection, okay? And if that's a block away from you, then you're gonna get 5 minutes. If I'm calling out a city, and I say, okay, I'm on my way, you're gonna get 35 to 40 minutes, okay? it's real hard for us to do that. And again, it depends on the inspection. You know, take
Sure.
2 minutes for us to go to the
So-
GFCI receptacle,
Right.
or we have to explain the whole process to a homeowner.
My understanding is our protocol is, and I've ridden with each one of our inspectors on all of their, to see that they're doing good customer service. I've personally, many days, rode with each one of our inspectors. So the first inspection, they should be calling from the office and saying, you're my first inspection, I'm gonna be here at this time. After they do that inspection, a myriad of things could happen. Could be an elderly couple that needs a lot more time to be explained to. And so we hate to say we're gonna be at this, trying to rush that couple. You know, instead, once we're finished with that inspection, we'll give you a text and say, we're on our way to your inspection. Sure. And that's what it is. And to have it same day, you know, I think that's a pretty good deal. You know, if you call before 8:30 in the morning, that's a pretty good deal. You know, and then it's the next day if you would call after 8:30.
Right.
And don't take it the wrong way, it's not like we're saying you guys screw everything up. You guys do some really good stuff and have for the 18 years I've been licensed here. This job, well, these two big commercial jobs we're on right now have been a nightmare.
And, yeah, I'm sorry, I just want to say, so on that, so with the, and I get that we're not looking for an exact time, you know, like as close as possible or as legal as possible, you know, so when you're leaving in the morning, you have it mapped out, you know, essentially how many are ahead of, like, let's say if we're calling for a time frame, you have an approximate idea. You know, if you're out of town, okay, we'll, you know, add an hour or whatever that might be. And I get how inspections go. I do inspections. That's what my job is for scopes of work. So sometimes they're 30 minutes. Sometimes, like you said, if they need more explanation or how in depth it is, it could be an hour and a half, sometimes 2 hours. You know, I really don't know sometimes until I get in there. So I get that, you know, and if I have to call my next appointment and let them know I'm running late because of whatever happened, I do that. You know, I don't leave them a big wide open window. I have a pretty good idea of what my day looks like and, you know, how to schedule things from the very beginning. And, you know, there's days that things get just, you know, thrown onto my lap in the middle of the day and we make it work, you know, and you guys have the luxury of having a set schedule when you walk out of the office.
Well, it's all that plan originally, but I've been in the truck with the guys and say, hey, you know, since you're in this area, can you come see this or that, the other thing too? You know, we're trying to be as helpful as we can. And you might be one of those calls.
Sure.
You know,
And I get that, but I'm just saying, I wonder if there's something that you could do to try to help get a better timeline available instead of just an all-day thing.
that's a good suggestion. Let us work on it.
And,
You know,
you know, there's something in that.
yeah.
And into the inspections, you know, you had mentioned, you know, when there's catastrophes, floods, fires, whatever, you know, you come in and you inspect the building and whatever the inspection is, whatever you're inspecting, it's enough to condemn the building. And, you know, is there a list, like how thorough are those inspections? Is there a list somewhere that we could find that shows the plumbing needs to be worked on, everything that we see inside this building?
What will happen is, you know, we'll have that event that happens and we'll put on a violation notice. And like, we've had elderly people sitting outside, you know, they've got their cars, someone hit them with the car, their house with the car. And we got to determine whether they could go back in the house or not, if the plumbing's been hit, if the electrical's been hit, if the structure's been damaged. So we'll write, and it's not instantaneous, we have to write a violation of all the things we see.
Right.
You know, and then you gotta get a contractor and all that when you're gonna fix it.
Right.
That sort of thing. So it's a whole process.
Okay, and so where do we get that report showing everything that's in violation?
It'll be by address. So on our website, you can look it up by address. And again, we post a violation notice with all the things with the contact information of the inspector.
Okay.
And so you could actually then have a conversation because it's hard to write every single thing down on the violation notice, right?
Sure. And so I don't believe that was available for the Elizabeth job that was mentioned because you guys were now, that this is the one, I don't know if you're familiar with, but the roof blew off under Elizabeth after we had that microburst.
Oh,
You know, there was no information. Yeah, we had a couple of different.
but you had an active permit on that already.
No.
Oh,
We did not.
We did not, but we were the ones cited for the violation.
Oh,
And that's the other problem,
Are you
we paid a
sure?
double permit fee
oh,
because someone else started work without a permit. So when we went to pull our permit, we ended up paying a double permit fee. So that's something I'd like to discuss with you too. I can't recover that from the owner or the insurance company.
right.
I shouldn't have to pay it.
Well, you have my business card now.
Awesome.
And so, you
Thank
know,
you.
when things like that happen, not a perfect world, give me a call, give Arnold a call, we'll work this, tell us what your situation is and we'll work it out. Perfect. Yes, sir.
Well, I'm coming at it from the insurance aspect of it with the greatest respect to all the wealth of knowledge in this room when it comes to building. But on the insurance side, I have to, just give you a big thank you on the technology where I can pull permits for insurance. And this has been just a huge pain point, not only for my office, but even for realtors, especially when they're looking at things such as age of the roof, where a permit wasn't pulled.
Mhm.
And I know you've heard that a ton, but I have to say thank you very much for posting everything.
Yep.
Because the updates that are in there, the permits that were pulled is critical information that I need so that I can service my customers the right way.
We want to work more with insurance companies because I've had some roofs replaced and it's like, darn it, I wish the insurance company, like now, what do you? I wish the insurance company would demand a permit for these roofers because we get a lot of fly-by-night roofers that come in. And we don't go door to door to door to door to violate people. We hear it from the neighbor or from the owner. And we'll go on and say, well, do you have a contractor's license to do this? A lot of times they don't, they split. So the good contractors like y'all, pull the permit, right? And I would like the insurance companies to require that they pull a permit. And then before they pay out, the insurance company pay out, get a final inspection approval. And then that gives you confidence that, boots on the ground has looked at that. And then you can pay out your, deductible,
Oh, absolutely.
the rest of your funds.
Absolutely.
So that's one way we can all work better together, I'd say.
Yeah.
And I would be all over that because that weeds out the bad contractors, guys are out there working unlicensed, uninsured.
Well,
I'd
see,
be all over that.
and we'll take that complaint too. It's like, if you give us a call and you see a roofing happen, it's like, I don't think any of these guys are licensed. We're obligated to look at every complaint. And so we'll go out and we'll say, show us your license, or show us your permit. A lot of times we'll have to find them because they get, well, we're just doing this and that, and it's kind of like for like. So we don't go door to door, but we do handle all the complaints as well.
And some of that actually falls on the homeowner as well.
Yeah.
Especially if they're looking to cut corners to maximize the profit on it, which, obviously it's a legal profit.
The thing that makes my skin crawl is like, codes cost, more expense, and after I kind of displayed that, code is developed when blood is shed twice, I mean, what are you gonna cut? You're gonna cut the CO sensors? Are you gonna take out the rebar? Are you not gonna do the grounding? Code is the minimum thing you need in order to build a building, all we're trying to do is keep the public safe. And so the other thing we've done is like, when I came here, like, oh, that inspector hates me, or something like that, right? And so I said, okay, let's get the code section out, and in all those books that I showed you, and show the specific code section of what we're citing. Because when it's in black and white, it takes all the personality out of it too. The other thing that was a pet peeve of mine when I was in practicing architect is I get through plan review, right? And then I get my building going, and then all of a sudden the inspector had a different idea of code than the plan reviewer, right? And I'd have to say, okay, be very nice to him, get his code citing of what he's saying, so I can take it back to my engineer and they can tell me what's going on and I can respond that way, right? A lot of times, actually, when I asked for that code citing, it would go away because the inspector was remembering it a different way than what the actual code said. So that was kind of a technique that I used. I am proud to say that our plan reviewers that are masters in their trades are also our inspectors. So we get that cohesiveness, and when there's actually they're very enamored by challenges, hey, I think, oh yeah, what do you think we should do? So they all have a collaboration meeting before they decide what they're doing, So I'm very proud of our staff. But, so in light of everything being a perfect world, come down and talk to us. Let's see what the issues are. If you're running into a snafu, don't suffer through it. Give us a call. Let's see. I have people that I can connect you with, Jen Wagner at the county or Carmen or something. We get you through. They have any permit techs hired over there. they might need to sit down and say, oh, you know, here's this and that. Give you a couple examples of, we had a project where they wanted to move a sewer line from underground to overhead, right? And so what happened was, the computer automatically put a routing partner in transportation. And like, that doesn't make sense. And my chief planner, Carlos Satiana, says, I know you're interested in making it go fast, but I don't understand why a routing for transportation for the sewer line. I go, you're right. So I called up Greg George with the county and said, Greg, I think this was a mistake. He said, you're right. Would you just approve it and we'll get through it and we handle it like that? But that's because we're networked now and we're trying to get better. And there's different bugs in the system that we're trying to touch, right? So, in lack of a perfect computer system, come and talk to some humans and, let's work it out as friends. Because I quote one of my permit techs when they come up to the counter. I kind of am proud of this. They'd come up to the counter and she would say, what are we building? You know, we're all on the same team. You know, and that's the attitude I'm trying to bring to all of our staff. So, we want to prove it too.
Is Pueblo Means Business in business? They,
It's a committee.
organization?
It's a
Yeah.
committee.
So did they ever get everyone together like they had planned? and-
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
We've been doing it for about a year and a half. And so now it's
Is that
time
where
to,
you're at?
yeah, I'm the chair, the second chair. Zach Swearinger, the commissioner, is the first chair. And, it's made up of architects, contractors, reviewers, that sort of thing. We're all, it's been a journey because the initial premise was done by non-contractor people like Garrison Ortiz and Mark. They've never done a project. So in fact, I've helped Garrison. It's like, okay, now you have to go to the county and now you have to get your contractor to tell them that they've done this or that. Oh, okay, you know, that sort of thing. But what we found was initially, I call it the gizmo, was blamed, you know? But what we found in reality is the people that are pushing the buttons of the gizmo that need to be networked and make it work like that, you know? So that's why I suggested to have a retreat on April 8th with all the county, the city, Pueblo West, the health, and CDOT, all in the same room, talk about all the bugs that we're doing to see if we can come up with a culture that's a hot potato culture now. Let's get it off our system. Let's get people building. Let's get business going. As an architect, I am pro-development. I want us to do projects. As a native of Pueblo, I want Pueblo to do great, you know? So the more successful you are, the successful I am. Period. That's it. You know, let's keep it simple. Thank you for listening.